Yo, you're not gonna believe this, but I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it. Toomey probably should have won the Rogue Invitational this past weekend.
Is that what you think? You think?
What? Andrew, what? You called her the most disrespectful woman in fitness. Yeah, I can do that. I can say that, and I can still say that she probably should have won the weekend. And I could also say that the only reason that Laura Horvath probably won is because it wouldn't stop raining.
Obviously, the rain is throwing a huge wrench into a lot of things here, not only the schedule, but also some of our technical equipment.
I'm gonna tell you why I can say that. I can tell you why because I've been on record saying that in 2022, and all of you guys agreed with me that the alpaca was all messed up at the CrossFit Games because it rained, and they took out the L-sit legless rope climbs. And thankfully for us, there was an athlete who competed that and benefited from both this weekend and the CrossFit Games in 2022, and that's Dani Spiegel. Because in 2022, she finished second overall on the alpaca, only to be ousted by Laura Horvath, who had taken first. And if there were legless rope climbs in that workout, Dani Spiegel does not finish second. That was one workout. This is a whole weekend. And the whole weekend kept on being tweaked so that Dani Spiegel would just make her way up the leaderboard a little bit. But we're not just going to talk about her. We need someone to kind of balance this conversation out. Because if Laura Horvath is on the Dani Spiegel side of the spectrum, that being on the larger side of the athlete end of the spectrum, we had Toomey, who is on the smaller athlete side of the spectrum. And way on the other end of the spectrum is a male named Victor Hofer, who is indeed a male, although his CrossFit Games profile does not say so. So on the spectrum from Victor to Spiegel, we have Tia somewhere over here, we have Laura somewhere over here, and every time it rained, it kept on making the workouts favor Spiegel, which actually ended up also making it favor Laura, which makes what Tia did even more impressive, because she is smaller, and it pains me to say it, but she probably should have won, and I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you using top 10 finishes. I'm going to use top 10 finishes from the people on the outsides of the spectrum, that being Spiegel and Hofer. Victor Hofer had 3 top 10 finishes. He had them on events 2, 4, and 8. Dani Spiegel had 5 top 10 finishes. She had them on 3, 5, 6, 8, and 9. Of those top 10 finishes, Victor had 2 of the 3 of them being unchanged, and Dani had 4 of the 5 of them being changed. And the changes that occurred on these workouts very much show you how much the programming could have been positive or negative towards these archetypes of human, that being the larger and the smaller. Let's look at Victor first. So on event 2, it was unchanged. Victor finished 5th. That was the workout with all those log muscle ups. He had to operate that heavy barbell, but the log muscle up was the major holdup for the majority of the athletes. You can go back and you can watch it if you don't believe me. But because he was able to operate himself around that bar, being a lighter athlete, being a gymnasticsally inclined human being, he had a pretty good finish, that being 5th. And if he could handle the barbell even better, he likely would have won it. But because he is so small and he's doing everything he can to get stronger, I'm assuming, 5th is great. On event number 4, that event was unchanged as well. He finished 3rd. That was the 10th inning with all of the freaking power snatches, 120 bendovers and the muscle ups and the handstand push-ups. I heard some people on the Sevon podcast saying that he might not do all that well because his trunk was kind of tiny.
Just look at him physically. He hasn't taken that leap. Look at someone like Noah or Pat or Chandler or even Brent. Just look at Ricky, for example. Look at their stature through the trunk and then look at Victor's. He just hasn't taken that leap yet, and that's not a knock to him. He's young, and that takes time to develop. Your core musculature through the trunk is arguably takes the longest to develop.
And you can tell who's got it and who doesn't have it, and Victor doesn't have it.
Not yet. Not yet.
You know what I'm saying, though, right?
But at the end of the day, that is a lighter barbell, and it is 120 gymnastics movements, and it shows because he finished 3rd, and that workout was the same as written. Workout number 8, it was changed. That was Big Cat. They took out the pegboard climbs, they took out the hill run. But I think that his lead only widens because he won that workout. And I think if you put in the pegboard climb, you put in the hill, that athlete, that kind of person over here, the lighter athlete, does even better when you put those things in. And in a way, I think that might be the turning point of the weekend, that being Big Cat.
I am never going to financially recover from this.
What we have is Victor Hofer. We have him in a position where when we then compare him to Spiegel, maybe he did worse overall, but he's just showing us. He's showing us as the smaller athlete in the field on the men's side that his best finishes were on the ones that really had no effect on it whatsoever. And then on the other end of the spectrum, we got Dani Spiegel, who all of her best finishes of the 5 in her top 10, 4 of them were altered. The only one that wasn't altered was event 6, which was the deadlift. She finished 2nd overall. That's a wash, and we're going to just say, hey, good job on the deadlift. It's just like the log. But on events 3, 5, 8, and 9, they were all changed. And on 5, 8, and 9, they were all changed in the favor of Spiegel. So of 9 workouts, 33% of them were altered to favor the larger athlete. But let's start with workout number 3. That was the killer cage. You had to do it unbroken. That was the change that I heard of. Bars were slippery. Athletes were taking breaks, and I did mention earlier Tia versus Laura, and Laura did take a break right at the end of it. Did she have to? Could she have gotten away with it? We'll never know, but that is the first point in time where maybe Laura had a little bit of a benefit through being able to take a break, because I remember she moved the pad over and everything. Maybe that cost her a couple seconds. Maybe it cost her a couple of points on the leaderboard. Maybe that is the difference at the end of the weekend, but at the end of the day, Spiegel wasn't changed. Laura potentially was changed. Strike one for the larger athletes due to the rain. We look at event number 5. That was the duel. That was the duel which removed a gymnastics component, that being the rope climb. It's no coincidence that you take out the rope climb, and at the end of the freaking workout, what you have left is Spiegel versus Horvath for the win. Spiegel wins, obviously, but does Spiegel win if there is a legless rope climb or two? We don't know how many there were. I don't know how many there were, but there were supposed to be them in there, and they don't win that workout. Maybe they do well, but I'm saying that it had a moderate effect. Instead of going 1-2, maybe they go 5-6, or maybe they go 5-8 or 4-8. Who knows? We'll never know. Just like we don't know if Laura takes that break on the P-bar traverse, on the killer cage, but stuff's going good for the larger athletes at the Rogue Invitational. Thank you, Rain. They did a rain dance, and all of a sudden they're doing better in the weekend. Talked about event 6, whatever, it's a deadlift. They're going to finish where they finished. Also, coincidentally, both in the top 5. But then we have event 8, Big Cat. The one where I told you Victor Hoffer had no benefit because they took out the pegboard and the hill climb. I think he wins either way. That is not the case for Danny Spiegel. If you put in that hill and you put in the pegboard, there is no way that she still finishes 9th. Before the event, I'm in this group of people and I say, I bet my bottom dollar that Spiegel is in the bottom 5. Bottom 3, maybe even dead last on this thing. You take out the gymnastics component and you take out the fitness component, that being the hill run. I get it. I get that you had to do it because of the rain. That doesn't mean that you need to completely change the stimulus of the workout. You got to do something. In event 7, I believe they did lunge with the barbell across the field and they thought that it was too dangerous, so they had them lunge in place. And that's good. You kept the stimulus of the workout. You got to do things like that. And I know that you're not testing for the fittest on earth, but you want somewhat of a well-rounded competition. Otherwise, you might as well just do a high rocks event or a powerlifting event. Because the more and more you do stuff like this and you take out the stuff like the pegboard and the fitness component, that being the hill run, the more likely it is a Spiegel is to do better. And you're going to say, Andrew, you're hating on Spiegel again. Yeah, well, I'm loving on Tia, so shut up. Tia should have won because of stuff like this. Because whether you like it or not, you got Tia and you got Laura, and Laura is a larger athlete than Tia. Tia will have an advantage on a pegboard climb. Tia will have an advantage going up and down a hill because she doesn't have to move as much person. Tia only lost to Laura by 10 points on this event alone. You probably make up 10 points, get a person or two to shuffle in between it, because it's just 2 athletes and you got 20 other women out there. And of these 20 other women, you better damn well bet that there's going to be some other athletes to do better or worse compared to the pegboard climb and the hill run. It's not just the ones that we're talking about. And we haven't even started with event 9 yet, which apparently the barbells were supposed to be heavier. We can see that the time cap was supposed to be 14 minutes. I do like the fact that they kept that because they were worried about the rest time. It didn't really look good on the stream. You're just sitting there like, why the hell? They were done 8 minutes ago. Why aren't they going yet? But they lowered the barbell weight because of the rain, and then they moved it inside and decided not to change the barbell weight again because they had already briefed the athletes. And the barbell was made lighter. You should say that if it were to be made heavier, that it would help Spiegel because she's stronger. If it were to be made heavier, it should help Laura. But what ends up happening is if you make it heavier, the whole event goes slower. And you see that with the time cap. So I'm going to say that this is kind of a wash, and if anything, it is a minor effect in the negative for the larger athlete. In the same way where when in 2015, 16, 17, 18, I had to work out and program for myself and this large athlete named Josh Hickson. The dude was 250 pounds. He would go from event to event to event. He would win all these assault bikes because he would do 50 calories in 31 seconds and he would beat everybody by 10 seconds. And then Assault Fitness sends him an assault bike side gig selling assault bikes that he won at these competitions. But him and I would work out with one another. I was about 185 pounds. He was about 250 pounds. I went through this 12-week barbell cycling cycle where I wanted to get my Isabel time as close to, if not under a minute as I could. Gotten as close as I could to a minute, and I was super proud of it. That dude rolls out of bed that morning, comes out into the gym and rips a 59-second Isabel with a 135 bar, and I'm just thinking, oh my god, that's super freaking annoying. But it was always good for us because at the end of the day, I was always trying to beat him and he was always trying to beat me on things that favored us. And it was good for me as a programmer because I never wanted to give him too much. I never wanted to give me too much, but I was also aware of the things that I would give him and I would give me, and we would converse and we would both get better as a result. But it also gives me the insight into event number 9 right here, because I know that if you stretch a workout out, whether or not it's heavier or not, that sort of athlete usually ends up slowing down to the point where the lighter athlete, so long as they're competent moving that barbell, can catch up a bit. And I'm looking at Spiegel right now, and she is incredibly deconditioned. On the most CrossFit-centric event, which she was clamoring for during the CrossFit Games on the Kettlebells and Cocktails podcast.
It's not CrossFit anymore. That's my only thing. That is my only complaint, is that we just don't see enough CrossFit at the fucking CrossFit Games.
That being the 10th inning, where it is a version of Nate in a way. There is no more CrossFit workout than that workout in this competition. She finishes dead freaking last. She also finishes about dead last on that ruck run. She's never been a great runner, so maybe that's not the best indicator of her current conditioning level. I'm not saying fitness level, because in my opinion, those are different things. But the events that she did the best on this weekend had the least conditioning. So if we're just going to look at event 9, and she can finish that thing in 3 to 4 minutes versus 8 to 9 minutes, I believe it helps her. That lighter barbell, or whatever they did to change it to make it faster, helped Spiegel. And we also have Tia Toomey on that first event, who clearly shows that she is very well conditioned. We have Tia Toomey deadlifting 98%, if not 99% of her best deadlift ever, showing that she can handle that barbell. And I guess she is going against the fittest woman on earth, that being Laura Horvath. So for those two athletes, I think it's a wash. For Spiegel, I think that it helped her out that they changed the workout and the time cap in relation to the time cap and all that. But for these two, that's a wash. But if we're looking at the archetypes, that being a Hoffer versus a Spiegel, Hoffer has 3 bullet points out of the 9 workouts, showing that it is what it is. If you were going to do well, you were going to do well, whether or not it was changed. But when it comes to Spiegel, that being the other end of the spectrum, we have 3 definite things where the weather ended up changing the workout so that it favored those bigger people. One where it had no effect for Spiegel, but a potential effect for Laura on the P-bar traverse. And that last one, which is probably a wash when you're talking about the women who are the fittest on earth, but not for Spiegel, who is deconditioned. This entire video, the point of it is about stimulus. It's almost like making a bunch of cookies. Hey guys, come on over. I made a bunch of cookies. They're eating them and they go, all right, it's very obvious when you miss the chocolate chips. You said you were making chocolate chip cookies. Where are they? And this weekend wasn't missing the chocolate chips. But if you put too much salt into a cookie, or you put too much baking soda into a cookie, it gives it this weird texture or a weird taste. Everyone goes, all right, it's a cookie. It looks like a cookie. It kind of tastes like a cookie, but there's something up. And at the end of this weekend, if you really look at it, there was something up. That something was the rain. And after it's all said and done, it's very easy to take a bite into the freaking thing and say, whoa, that's a little bit bitter. Like, ah, yeah, it rained. Sorry, I put too much baking soda into my cookies. Laura won, and I'm on Team Laura, but Tia should have won. And that's all I got to say about that. Andrew Hiller, out.
Please smash that like button. No one touches there now.
Yesterday, you said tomorrow. So just do it! Make your dreams come true! Just do it! Some people dream of success while you're gonna wake up and work hard at it. Nothing is impossible. No, what are you waiting for? Do it! Just do it! Yes, you can!